Welcome to NEK-TV Rocks, and my guest today is Felicia Updyke, and you've been here before, but now you're in a different role. You're the Associate Director of Newport Downtown Development.
Yes, I'm very happy to be in this position. Thanks for having me back.
It's great. So, what's your new job?
So, I'll explain a little bit of background, but I've been on the board for NDD for about a year and a half.
Right.
So I've been involved a lot. I was on the marketing committee and I was the co-chair of the events committee that does all the winter Saturdays and the fun stuff. Mm-hmm. And so then I worked for Eat Insiders downtown. Mm-hmm. Wonderful company to work for. So I worked for them for about a year running the tasting room as well as some other things. And when we had to make the tough decision to close the tasting room, there kind of went my job as well.
Yeah.
And being on the board for NDD, I helped develop the associate director job. And the day that I kind of lost my job with Eden.
You wrote your own job description.
Correct. I called Rick and said, this is what just happened, and I'm going to throw my name in the ring for the associate director job. So immediately I sent in my resume and I was interviewed, like, you know, a proper candidate
like
and everything.
Never knew you,
exactly.
Right?
And then the board decided just a couple days later to hire me and offer me the job. And so then I resigned from the board.
Of course.
And I started right away with them. So I officially started August 1st and jumped right in. It's been easier, and I think both on me and Rick, because I've been involved with so many projects already, being on the board and being in the committees. So it's been really easy. Well, easy to jump in. There's really no training, and Rick and I got to work right away. In our office, we have this huge, we're both visual, and we have this huge boards of all the projects we're working on, and we're just sticky notes and where I need to work with.
Do you share that very small office space?
We moved, so now we have a view of Main Street, which is really nice. And so we both have desks in there, and we have a little conference table. But it works out really nice too. And it kind of, I can work from home, or you know, I go
there,
have meetings with other people. But it's nice to kind of be in person with Rick, and we brainstorm very well together when we're together. So, yeah.
So, what are the plans?
Right now, basically kind of just helping out in areas that Rick needs me, or I'm taking on projects that we feel that we need to work on that needs leadership that necessarily Rick can't help out as much. So Rick is really focusing on the economic side of things and the housing. We have a housing task force, and he helps out on that side a lot more. Since I'm already involved with communications team and events, that's a lot of my time too. Right. And also the outdoor rec. We got that grant for VORAC that we're all the partners in town. So I'm really heading that with the reimbursements for the grants and seeing the projects through. I've kind of taken on social media, creating all the flyers and graphics and posting, and we do a weekly article in the Newport Daily Express, so creating that as well. So just kind of being more present, the more kind of day-to-day things I'm helping with.
The organization is interesting in how it's evolved over the years. I mean, all of us here still tend to refer to it as Renaissance.
Yep.
You know, old names stick. Yes. But that's also really true for everything else up here. You know, a store is referred to as who it was 20 years ago as opposed to who it is now.
Yes.
But the evolution still keeps happening. So you've sort of changed from Renaissance, which was pretty focused in what it was supposed to do, to something that's much more diverse.
Yes, we have, so we were also the Newport City Downtown Development, and everyone associated us with the city directly or thought we were the city. So that's why we dropped the part city in our name. So we're just Newport Downtown Development, and it's helped so far. I'm
amazed it's actually made a difference, because I didn't think anyone was confused by that.
We always had to kind of get up and say, oh, you know, we're Newport City Downtown Development, and we're not associated with the city. We collaborate with the city, but we are not the city itself.
Yeah.
And so dropping that name and kind of rebranding that a little bit
Yeah.
helped us a lot. And it's not as much as a mouthful when you have to say it.
True.
But yeah, we have a lot of subcommittees that are doing a lot of work, and I think a lot of it, a lot of people don't know about just because, you see the Winter Saturdays and
Right.
those events. We help out with Fall Festival. But we have a housing task force that is really hard at work. They meet, I think, once a month, twice a month, just working on, what does housing look like here. Our economic task force meets every other week, developing our downtown Newport master plan.
Right.
So that's all behind the scenes. We have a design and welcome committee that's working on outdoor rec sculptures that will be installed this fall.
Yeah.
So that's also kind of behind the scenes until we see it. And we worked with the Career Center and the kids there. The events crew, we have about 45 people on our email list to help with events.
Yeah. So there's sort of two of you who are visible.
Correct.
You and Rick, obviously. But there's this whole cast of characters, the sort of moving pieces, all of whom are volunteers.
Yes, we are all volunteers.
Yeah.
We have a couple contracting. The Canusa 360 Arts is a great collaborative that Lynn Rubley is heading.
Right.
And so we've contracted
Lynn's
her
been on here recently.
to talk about it,
Yeah.
yes.
It's a great program.
I help oversee that
Yeah.
and help develop their website and whatnot and get that kind of off the ground running. And then we've contracted with a website designer who helps us with our website. But other than that, everyone is volunteer and takes their time, and it really shows how much everyone wants Newport to grow.
Oh, yes.
So there's a lot of time because everyone has jobs. There's not that many retired people that are helping us, which
Right.
is great because it just shows that they have an extra passion for what's happening.
Yeah.
And they're willing to give the time.
It's also a really good way for people to build a friendship network too, which is really important if you're going to be working together a lot as volunteers.
Yes. So I moved here from Southern California 2.5 years ago and knew nobody and got involved with the events crew.
Right.
And
Now you know everybody.
whenever my parents come into town and, we go to the farmer's market or the grocery store
Yeah.
and everyone's saying hi to me and they're like, well, how do you
know so many people?
What is going on?
Well, let me tell you how.
But I found a lot of other people my age that did the same thing, moved here and didn't know anyone. And we were able to build and grow a community. And it's branched out, has so much with different organizations and all the different collaborations. We meet a bunch of new people who are new here, or who have lived here, who want to help out. And we're creating different communities. And it's really amazing.
Yeah. It's really important. I mean, if a town, if the communities within the town are going to grow, there's got to be a network, and it can't just be the old guard.
No, and I have really learned, we found our friends, our friend group, but having a young daughter, finding also the other parents. I had COVID like a month ago, and everyone rallied, getting dinner, but also, okay, do you need help with your daughter? There's different groups that really help out in a community, and I really feel a strong community here, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's there, you just have to find it.
You have a dog too.
I have 2 dogs.
And 2 dogs. Well, there's your other community
Yes,
builder.
exactly. Walking the recreation path with the dogs is always
Yeah.
amazing, and you find other people who have dogs.
Exactly.
My puppy goes to daycare at Stubbs daycare, and she's meeting friends there, so then we meet their parents. So yeah, there's always community to be found. And
Yeah, the whole concept of doggy daycare it's a little new, but it's great.
it's new to me too.
Yeah.
But she's a puppy, and I just don't have time for
Right.
puppy energy on top of a 5-year-old. So.
Right.
So it's also helping the community, right? So we
Yeah.
have all these resources, and to use it, I think is great.
Yeah, we need resources here. To go back to housing, because that's such a big issue, how is your organization being involved other than in a visioning way? And obviously you're doing a lot of that.
Yes, a lot of envisioning, but a lot of research. So finding out why properties are being quote unquote abandoned, right? They may not be abandoned because they're up to their, they've paid all the fees,
Right.
but just no one's living there.
Yes.
Right? or it isn't abandoned, and there's really nothing that we
There's
can do
both.
about it. Yes, there's definitely both. And so why? So, asking those questions, why are those there? And then the hardest part too is finding developers to take one of those to purchase, to then create it into affordable housing.
Yeah.
Because we do have, we have the market of houses to buy, but we don't have affordable houses for, single parents or someone out of college coming in who just needs a studio or one bedroom.
Right.
And that's really important, and that's how we're going to get workforce here. So right now, a lot of research is being done of why it's like this and how can we do it and what we can do it. And then what are some areas that we could develop. And also the senior housing is an issue as well. So I've only been to one meeting so far, but it's very interesting because that's not where I've been plugged in, just being on the board. So they have great leaders, Dr. Umair Malik from Blue Spruce, and then Andrea Carbine are the leaders of the housing task force. So they have great leaders and are doing a lot of research right now, basically, trying to see what we can do, what's feasible, basically.
Right. Are they in contact with other towns who are also...
Yes, actually, I think next week we have someone from another town coming to speak with us. That is a big thing our economic task force does, as well as partner with different towns who have done what we want to do, and how did they make it work, and they come and talk to us.
Right. And paying attention to the differences between the communities, because sometimes location, geography is really important. Yeah, Rutland, for example, has a strong Habitat for Humanity organization that is renovating houses and then making them available to single parents, people with a lower income, but who have the ability to maintain and move on and can pay a mortgage. So they're doing some creative financing around it. It's a really great program.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. I can connect you with somebody for that.
Perfect, yeah.
But it was one of those, oh wow, I wish we had that.
Yeah, and I think it's really, important to get it out there and known that we are working on these things, because a lot of people will come to us, and it's fine, but not know what we're doing. And it's, why aren't you focusing on housing or XYZ, and we have a lot of, committees working on all the different things, but it's just not outwardly enough to know, like our events.
Yeah.
And so anyone who wants to get involved or help can totally help us or get involved.
So the volunteer recruitment is you as well.
Yes.
So anybody listening to this who's interested in learning more about your committees and seeing if there is a place to plug in.
Yeah, just email me. We'll grab lunch or coffee. And
perfect. Yeah. And your contact information will be at the end of this video, so you'll be really easy to find. And you're pretty obvious on the street too.
Yes. Yes.
Which is the good news.
You'll either see me with my daughter or a dog. So.
Yeah. Or hiding out in Green Mountain Natural Foods.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect location for where your office is.
For my office, it is. It's very convenient.
Yeah. It's perfect meeting room.
Yes. Yeah.
So what are some of the other parts of your organization that you really want people to know about? Because so much of it is underground.
Yes. There are a lot of concerns about our main street and businesses closing.
Yes. And every other town. It's not
yes,
just
it's
here.
not just us. But Rick and I are working very hard, behind the scenes on trying to, we have an empty building. What can we do?
Right.
Can we find an investor? Okay, but then if we find an investor, do we have the businesses that can go in there, and how do we sustain those businesses?
Right.
And as an organization, how can we support these businesses? And so that kind of goes, when we find those answers, we kind of go back to our economic task force about that. But Rick and I are very on the ground talking to people, and you have a business. What does that look like to you to open a business? Our new Men for Magog markets that will hopefully open in a month or so. That's
in what was the tasting center.
Yes. That's a start. There's so many small businesses out there that can't afford a storefront. And so this was kind of our answer to, okay, what can we provide them to start their small business, to have a storefront, you know, that they can now, you know, wheel out on Main Street on a nice day or be indoors. It's, you know, we have to really think 4 seasons here, and, you know, hopefully help them develop their business to where they could eventually be a storefront and they can learn, and we make it affordable. We received a grant, so it's only $50 a month for them to rent a cart.
And that includes the space in which to keep the cart.
Yep, it locks so they can keep their products there. We covered all the permitting, so they don't even have to get a city permit. We covered all that for them as well. And so
that's the quote peddler permit that I hear a lot of people talking about.
Yeah, so NDD covered a permit for that building and the whole block of Main Street, both sides.
Wow.
For anyone we rent to. So there's about 13 carts. So if someone's interested in that too.
Have the carts all been claimed yet?
They have not been all claimed. Oh. So right now we have some that have been claimed, and we're really working on revamping the space to make it cozy and welcoming. But that's on me and Rick too. So
yeah,
I'm not as handy. I can paint, but so that's what we're working on currently. But, you know, behind the scenes is the small businesses and helping, you know, with the eat and tasting room not there. Okay, what would work there and how can we support it? And we're going out and trying to reach out to companies. You know, everyone says we need a coffee shop, even though we have Green Mountain. But, you know, so just, you know, certain things, you know, we're listening. I'm on social media, so I see the posts of what everyone wants downtown. And believe it or not, I keep track of it, you know, but we listen, even though if I'm not commenting, you know, I'm listening to everyone.
You're tuned in.
Yeah. And we're reaching out to businesses or companies that have done it in other towns and it's worked. Do they want to franchise and start their own one here in Newport? Or we're finding, you know, we're just out at different markets talking to people, which is really a lot of my job, is just making connections. And
that's actually the really nice part of your job. I mean, social connections are so important, and we lost so much of that for a couple of years. So it's really, even though you only recently got COVID.
Yes. Yeah. And then we have our first ever business expo coming up at the end of September. And it's looking really good right now. Of just already we've had people sign up who do not even live in Vermont who want to move their business here.
Interesting.
And so they're going to be coming for the business expo to just see, you know, hear from local businesses. And but yeah, so it's a 2-day expo, Friday and Saturday, September 27th and 28th. Do
you still want more people for that?
Yeah, we're always we're looking for participants and vendors. So if you have a business that would either be like hiring or looking to expand, you could be a vendor. Or if you're watching this and are not in the Newport area and looking to expand and come to the area or move your business here, definitely. It's only a $25 registration fee for both days.
Yeah.
So it's very affordable. It's fun. We'll be taking a cruise out on the Northern Star, and
that's fun.
Yes. So just doing, you know, different things. We partnered with the War Commons and the Newport Daily Express to put this on. So yeah,
that's another useful partnership.
Yes. Just trying to partner with, I mean, anyone that really wants to. We're not looking to, you know, invent the wheel, but collaborate with the partners that are already here.
Right.
And they're doing great things. And how can we support? That's our biggest thing, is how can we support?
And how can I'm using the collective we, how can you find out what it is that people actually want? Not just we need a coffee shop, because that may or may not be accurate. We may, quote, think we need a coffee shop, but if we can't support a coffee shop, then that's pretty crazy to do that. Or we want a big box store. Okay, I'd love a Target too, but let's get real here, kids.
Yes, I would love one too. So right now, VHB, we hired with the city to create a master plan for downtown Newport.
Yeah.
And they'll be presenting to City Council on September 16th, and they'll be open to the public for public comment. And again, this is just a suggestion, so then we'll take that.
Right.
And where do we go from there, right? And so they've, in this meantime, you know, we had a public forum. They've been meeting with local stakeholders as well.
Yes.
Behind the scenes, and so this will be a great start to, you know, what we do need obviously housing, which we know that's been a big one. But
Yeah.
and then from there, I really hope the public comment portion that people do send in what they think, because we are here to listen. We are, I really want the public to know that we're not just doing what we want to do, because I would put a target here if it was up to me. But I know that's not, sustainable.
No.
And so, so I always encourage, and Rick does too, for the public to just come talk to us. If you also don't like something that we're doing, come talk to us. We're very open people and want to work with the community.
Yeah. And there are certainly people who have some really great ideas, but they're not ideas that they necessarily want to implement themselves. But they're potential business ideas if there was the right person to say, hey, that would interest me, and then pick it up and run with it.
Exactly. And we have a lot of conversations with a lot of people. Yeah. And so if someone does come to us, we might already have that connection for them and can just connect the dots. And that's sometimes a lot of times that we're doing is connecting dots. It's like, we heard someone say this a couple weeks ago. Oh, and someone came to me today, We just help facilitate.
Or they may not even want to be connected. They may want to say, this is what crossed my mind. Can somebody else do something with this? Because I've seen this work in other communities.
Exactly. So yeah, we're just really here, for the people too. And I would hope that everyone's comfortable coming to me and or Rick just to chat or send an email and
Yeah, I mean, we talk as if there's sort of no property available or around, but that's not actually true.
There's a lot of properties that are currently vacant.
Right.
It's just hard. I mean, for example, the Newberry building.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we could find someone that could maybe afford the price to pay for it, but then the renovations.
It's astronomical.
Yeah.
And that building inside is awful.
Oh, yeah. I can't go in there anymore.
Yeah.
And so we're doing the best that we can while we're trying to figure that out. Can it go under the Vermont Preservation Land Trust? Because it's a historical building. So while we're figuring out these things and it takes time, why not display art in the window?
Well, we did that before. I mean, that is not new.
Okay.
I know it was felt to be new, but it was done for several years.
Oh, that's cool. So I'm glad we brought it back.
Yes, we are too.
Yes. And so, just certain things like that. And, thinking ahead with the holidays, we're going to be doing like a window competition. And there are empty windows where other businesses who don't have a storefront could participate.
Right.
And we're using, unfortunately, those empty buildings, windows.
But put something in and it looks so much better. I mean, that's one of the great things that Rad Rags has done. She's taken on other windows and put really nice things in.
Yes.
And it looks good.
Yes. So Rick and I are definitely aware of that and figuring out how can we use these in the meantime.
Yeah.
Right? So.
There are other empty spaces. For example, the old Spates the Florist on Elm Street.
Oh, yes.
That's both a house and a gorgeous business space with greenhouses. And
Yes.
There it is.
Yes, and it's, other than the Newberry building, besides the Newberry building, almost all these, buildings don't need work. Especially,
they all need work.
I mean, they all need work, but not,
They're old buildings.
The Newberry building you can't even walk into, right?
No.
And for instance, where the antique store and the restaurant used to be, that's a full kitchen that someone could come in and start something. The equipment's there. Or most of the equipment's there, the hood and all that. So, it's just kind of finding the right business that would want to take a chance, because we all know the first couple of years of owning a business, you're going to lose money.
It's hard, and I mean, there've been a couple. I keep hearing a call for another diner. Well, I'd love a diner too, and there were diners there, and they were successful, but it's a brutally hard job to make the food affordable.
Yes. And it's hard. I mean, and how do we keep all the current businesses? Right. We have Warehouse and Lago and Green Mountain that are struggling, or I don't know if struggling, but I've
it's
heard
not an easy way
it's
to
not
earn
easy,
a living.
And it's for some reason, it's been a worse summer than the past, even though we didn't have, last year we had a lot of the floods. I mean, we did this year, but it didn't affect us as much as it did last year. And we're still struggling, even though it was a good summer. And so why, and how can we support the businesses that are still open? So yeah, it's tough.
Well, there probably were less tourists, and some of that was because of the flooding. It was harder to get here.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, so, answering those questions and trying to figure it out.
And that's not going to go away. I mean, we can probably look forward to more summers like that. So it's being creative to find ways around that.
Exactly. And how is us...
Public transportation. We don't have any. And RCT does what they do, and that's great. That's not enough.
No. I can't call them if I want to ride.
No, me neither. Well, I probably could, but it doesn't mean I'd get one. But something consistent. And then there's still that startup, because you have to get used to not constantly using your own car and doing it that way.
And it's just, and I've found it more difficult too, of being, not from the snow and getting around. And so if you have a lot of tourists coming too that don't know how to get around in the snow either, how do they get around?
Right.
So just thinking about all these different things of how can we collaborate with, say, Jay Peak, who has the tourists, but who don't have a car or are afraid to come off the mountain because of the snow and drive,
Well, Jay Peak was also designed to keep people
Oh, yes.
there. I get that. But that makes them hard to collaborate with, even with the best will in the world. And there has been goodwill. There really has. But it's still hard to prize people off there and drag them down here, even though they're going to enjoy themselves when they get here, because everything is there. It's a one-stop shop.
Yeah. And
by intent.
By intent. And we've had some good luck with our Winter Saturdays events. And,
yes. Your Winter Saturdays events have been fabulous. They really have.
Thank you. Yeah. So we're starting to plan this year's, and we already have, but.
Yeah.
But now we have to think about, we've hit the capacity at the gateway.
Yeah.
And there's no other real space. So kind of thinking of that too, it's always kind of been a dream of both Rick and I to have a huge venue where you can do, dance, like a big dance hall, basically.
One of the big fantasies way back was about having an arts center across the street. Guess where it was going to go? Great. It's a lot to sustain that.
Yes.
I mean, but why not at least have the dream?
Yes.
And see what's feasible in there. But you're right. I mean, a big space, bigger space. The Gateway is wonderful.
Oh, it's wonderful.
And
there's more people that live in the town.
really fast.
Very fast. Some
Particularly
days.
when we have the round tables and we all sort of squish around them.
So last year we did adjust it to where dinner was first.
Yes.
And then we would move all the tables out of the way so, more people could dance. And there was a time frame you could come to eat dinner, and then it was cheaper if you just came for dancing. We'd remove the food, so that did work a lot better. But we still hit capacity, and
people still wanted to sit when they weren't dancing and talk, which is part of what the event is about.
Yeah, really about community.
Yeah, yeah, and we don't have a community center.
No,
which is another big issue, or has been over the years. I mean, you will have constantly, I'm sure, heard that cycle around and around. Because what does that even mean? What is a community center?
Yeah.
And how do we have one?
Exactly. And a lot of people have a different idea of what a community center is.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So it's listening, and how do we develop that?
What can we pull into the what are the pieces that can come together in a way that's affordable, reasonable, and sustainable?
Yes. I mean, a lot of times, Rick and I are very busy, but a lot of times we're sitting in our office brainstorming, because we do listen to everyone and all the comments.
Right. No, I'm sure you do.
And, and we think about it logically. And again, we're very visual people. So if you come into our office, there's sticky notes all over the walls. But it's a lot of brainstorming.
Yes.
Of how do we do this? What kind of grant is there? Okay, do we have someone in mind? Do we have, So it's a lot of puzzles, and
Are you doing the grant writing too?
I'm helping Rick with grant writing, yes. So, yeah. We are basically, you know, it's great that Rick and I had already had a couple years of rapport together, and we know we work well together.
Yeah.
And we complement each other in a lot of ways, and we balance each other out in a lot of different ways as well.
That's great.
And it's been really, you know, he is the executive director and I'm the associate director, but a lot of times we are just basically partnering on a lot of different things. And he takes it one direction, you know, we'll work on one project. He goes, okay, I'll work on these things because that's what he's stronger in. And then, you know, I work on a lot of, you know, the marketing side of things too.
Right, which is really important.
Yeah. So, you know, creating the flyers, all the social media things, printing them out, walking around and posting them up, you know, so
Yeah.
we both have strengths that we definitely work with even though if we're working on the same project.
Yeah.
And so it's been really nice we're collaborating as well as partners. So
It's actually really exciting, and there's a lot of potential, and that's challenging, it's exhausting. But it is wonderful.
yes, I love my job, and it's an organization that that's been dear to my heart since I was on the board for, over a year. So it's something that I have a passion in. And so I think it was, truly meant to be for me to be in this full time
Yes.
as my career. And Rick and I still get along. So our families went to dinner last night, and so we're still friends.
That's good.
So yeah, and we're both very much enjoying it. And in it for the long haul, which is good.
It's going to be a long haul,
Yes.
as I'm sure you're both fully aware.
My daughter already has like a volunteer badge that she made herself that hangs in our office. So she'll probably just end up taking it over when she graduates.
You mean the poor child had to make her own badge?
Yes.
Your volunteer team doesn't have symbols of recognition yet?
No, not yet.
But I'm sure you will. And you know what? There's nothing to stop her organizing a squad of young people.
Nope. No,
It'd be
she's
great.
if you've seen my daughter, you know
I
who
have.
she is. So a lot of people in town know her. And Mayor Linda Joy Sullivan gave her a mayor hat because she said at the kiosk ribbon cutting that she wanted to be mayor one day. So
Cool.
she's already it's up there.
That's great. Well, on that note, we're out of time for today. What I'd really like to do is have you come back in 6 months, a year,
Yeah.
and look at where this has all led, because it will have gone somewhere.
Yes, and I'm always happy to come on and talk about certain projects that need more education or,
That's great.
yes, whatever.
And we will end with people having a way to contact you.
Yes.
And it being very clear that what you all need are more volunteers.
Yes, we can always use more volunteers.
Of course.
Always. We don't want to burn out the ones that we have.
No, definitely not. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for
and
having me.
See you again.